All right, here we are, episode 47, At Worst and At Best Beliefs. I'm telling y'all right now, this is the beginning of many episodes that I will be sharing about belief this year. It has rocked my world in the best way. And I feel so grateful and I feel so in awe. And I feel like once again, that the Lord has just done for me what I could not do for myself. And in just the best way. And so I want to talk a little bit about it today. And I want to ask you the question. Do you know how feeling terrible feels in your body? Right? If we feel sad all the time, or if you feel anxious all the time, or if you feel overwhelmed all the time, or if you feel irritated all the time, like we like to convince ourselves that, oh, that's just the way it is. That's just how I feel. Let me go and process it. But after a long time of the same negative emotions showing up in your body and feeling terrible, like you get tired of feeling terrible. I remember when I was, overcoming anxiety and depression, and there were some things that after doing some of the mind renewal and the work that I was doing, like I just didn't feel anymore. And so I could remember like when I would go to like think a familiar anxious thought and and the tenseness that would immediately come in my body from doing so when I didn't think that way anymore. And it would almost be this split second of like where it would kind of roll through my mind, kind of my body. And then I'd be like, oh, it's not there. It's not like I can't even think that way anymore. And I would like literally feel it would leave my body. So it's just so interesting that when habits and changes were occurring naturally for me as the emotions and the body caught up with the thoughts that were being renewed, I noticed I didn't have to work so hard to feel better. Okay. It was such a relief physically and mentally and emotionally. I felt a lot of terribleness in my body, y'all, recently in business. And I didn't really realize it because I'm like, oh, well, this is just the nature of doing business and processing the emotions that come along with it. And a lot of them have been part of the process of building. And I don't know that we get to avoid any of that. But some of them, it is time that as I'm closing out this year at the time of this recording, and the grace I've been given to figure things out in the way that I have and generate and create what I've been able to do, that first of all, it's just normal that regular stress and angst and mental heaviness that we experience when our brains are really working hard to create big, beautiful things and trying things and revising things and fixing things and troubleshooting and processing the emotions along the way. Like a lot of that is normal, right? Like I'm not telling my kids that writing essays is fun and that you don't feel stress and you aren't having to work hard and you're not getting tired from it. That's not reality. I'm not telling them that, not to worry about your midterm, you'll do fine. Actually, I may have said that, but that, it is hard work to recall information and memorize things in your brain and take the time and the discipline to study. Okay. So that's normal. So there are these parts of the business, just like writing essays, just like taking tests, that will challenge our brains and they could feel hard. It could be work. It's just work. Okay. But also, though, there's a certain limit to which you should feel really terrible in your body. And that might be being dramatic. I don't know if it's really terrible. Okay. Because I've done so much coaching, y'all. And we all have our other unique areas and life deficits, if you will, that we coach on a lot ourselves. So yours may not be these, but mine are doubt, failure, and disbelief. Okay. So part of my business breakthrough, and I'm hoping to get this recorded in the next finished in the next 10 or 15 minutes because there's a class I want to join and it starts in 10 minutes online. And I got behind in my recording. So anyway, let's see if it works, y'all. But I've spent so much coaching on doubt and failure and disbelief. And this business breakthrough that I just experienced has come from a marriage breakthrough. That's why I love that I'm the like Christian life and business coach for Christian life coaches, because we coach on all of it, y'all. And that was my elbow on my table, by the way. But what I had this breakthrough in, and I'm going to put this book in the link, the show notes. I've been reading this book with some ladies from my church, and it's an old book by Elizabeth Elliot. Y'all probably all read Passion and Purity when we were in college, if you're my age. But this one's called Let Me Be a Woman. And Bray and I celebrated 18 years of marriage on New Year's Eve. And this was just kind of like a new level of growth and grace and mercy, if you will, in our marriage. And I don't know if I've shared all of this with him. He'll have to hear it here. Okay. But I was really convicted with a few of the chapters in the book, and it really changed the way I was showing up and the ways that I was thinking. Now, don't ask me that today, because right now I'm really irritated about this dog that keeps peeing everywhere and nobody's here to clean it up but me, and I didn't even want him. Okay. So I'm like stepping out of that little breakthrough for a moment to be angry. Okay. But what I realized was I didn't have to actually feel angry and terrible and annoyed all the time. Okay. That was dramatic. Not all the time, but by my husband and his ideas and his decisions and his habits. And she speaks to this and how it's so easy to happen. Right. And I recognized after I like saw things in this new way, like, and this is so crazy. And in this new way, what I mean is he has his own human brain and his own human ideas and decisions that he makes, as do I. And we're just two humans in the world. There's actually a million other ways to think about things and do things that might not be my way or his way, and they can still be a great way. So it's really, really helped me just kind of pull back a little bit. And I'm recognizing in the same way that I was mentioning about the anxiety and the depression, and just noticing when I was not automatically having those terrible thoughts anymore, and how good it felt for my body to like be reminded of it and then just not have to experience it. The same way has been happening in marriage. Hey, Lainey, do you mind to go back where I said I'm trying to get off in 10 minutes and just take all of that out? I'm sorry. Um, but anyway, I'm realizing that, you know what, and maybe I'm just old, but like kind of reminds me in parenting with some of the things that don't get parented with my 8-year-old is that I just don't have the energy in my body to feel certain ways anymore or react based on my reactions to things. Like it's just not healthy anymore. And once I've been, noticing this change, I have felt calmer and quieter and happier and more content. I mean, like I said, I've had, like, let's be real. The 50-50 is, yeah, there's been a few flare ups of my anger and irritation and criticism and judgment and resentment, like when the dog pees, things that are going wrong with this house we're building. But when I meet his frustration and impatience, like with the house, for example, that we're building, and stress with my own and human things, basic human things, and so many regular things differently, it's a completely different situation. And I just feel very, very grateful for that. And that the Lord would see fit to do for us what we just can't do for ourselves, even when we're really, really good at doing this work. He steps in and does that. So this was happening in my business too, right? So my coach was talking about, like, yes, we want to self-coach and we want to do this work and we want to be a product of our product, but like when you only have a certain amount of hours per day to build your business, you can't spend all your entire day coaching yourself on your negative thoughts and feelings. Like at some point, y'all, we got to take action. And I've taken a lot of action from negative feelings, from negative thoughts. This isn't going to work. Like I just go forward even when I'm scared. Okay. And then I work on the belief, and then I do it scared, and then I work on the belief. And so you can't wait to take action on those, 3 minutes of the day that you're in full belief and you have a lot of positive emotions guiding your actions. Okay. So I thought I challenged myself to take a break from continually coaching myself on doubt and failure and, inadequacy and incapability and frustration and pity and sadness as it relates to things that I would, put a lot of effort into with my business, something I would try and it like not work. Right. So I was just like, you know what? I'm going to just take a break from it. And so I started coaching myself on the opposite. And I started asking myself different questions. Because here's the deal, we are going to spend just as much time and mental and physical and emotional energy believing in something or not believing in something. One way of doing it is going to feel way better in our bodies. The other way is going to feel like I've felt for a very long time and had to work really hard at overcoming for a very long time. And I don't want to do it anymore. And I, kind of like when I stepped into my coaching business in 2020 and I looked at my girls and I thought they need to see me fail trying than fail by not trying. And it's the same way now. I would rather fail by believing, even if it doesn't make sense, than to fail with not believing, because one way is going to feel a lot better. And I've never been like a rose tinted glasses Pollyanna person, but I'm going to for a bit. I might not be verbally expressive about it. Like, let's not take it too far. Okay. But I'm going to mentally and emotionally start showing up to my life and to my business with my thoughts that are more automatically and default oriented toward some thoughts and some feelings that aren't so destructive to the body. Because here's the deal, even when I'm showing up in those intentional ways that I just mentioned in certain areas that I haven't been for a while, there's going to be plenty of other 50-50 things that come up for me to like do some self-coaching on. So don't worry, but I can tell you this, it's going to be 50-50 is going to be way better than the 80-20 or the 90-10 that some of it has felt. Okay. So I want to encourage you in your goals to just let yourself believe for a little while. Okay. I actually, through this work and through this concept, and I'll probably teach on it maybe toward the end of the year here on the podcast, I'm not sure, but I'm really saving all of its richness and depth for my mastermind students because I really want to have some time to experience it more myself and the results that it creates, as well as my mastermind students and the results that it creates for them. By practicing this, and I'll have it broken down into all the specifics in the teaching. But for the very first time, I felt something, the first time since I can remember, I actually have felt this feeling twice before. And I forgot about that. I was sharing it with my friend Edie today, and I forgot to mention these two times. I was like, this is the only time I've actually ever felt the emotion, the feeling of belief. Okay. Like where it's like, there's not an ounce of doubt anywhere. It just feels like belief. So that wasn't the first time. I will say it's one of the first, like I had that feeling of belief when I knew this was what God was calling me and creating me to do when I started life coaching. But because it was like so clouded with like evidence and results I hadn't created yet, that I didn't know how to be in full belief, even though I had confirmation and I knew, right? And so this is different. And I felt this when I knew Bray was like my husband. It was just so settled in my soul in belief that I was going to marry him that it left no room for like any other doubt or consideration. I also felt this way when we were I'd had a miscarriage, and then I was like almost a year that I wasn't getting pregnant. So there was some infertility. And I remember I was driving to Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I was like on the road where there was just trees. And it was really like the Lord was like, where I knew I was either going to become a mom through pregnancy, or I was going to become a mom through adoption, or I wasn't going to become a mom at all. And that was the thing I had dreamed about since I was a little girl. And the Lord was like, you're either going to become a mom through pregnancy, you're going to become a mom through adoption, or you're not going to become a mom at all. And you're going to feel okay. Right. And I was just like, oh, okay, well, I don't have to stop feeling this way that I'm not a mom, because whether I am and no matter how I get there or if I'm not, I'm going to be okay. And so I've experienced now this full belief in my business in a way that I've never experienced before. And I'm so grateful. I'm like, oh my gosh, don't go away. Don't go away. I want to like write out everything I can about it for as long as possible so I can look back if that fades or when I step out of belief. But I've never felt belief like this in my business. And it's almost a foreign concept to me that I'm really learning myself. And I can't wait to share it. But What I do know is that this level of belief that I have is really recognizing that, and I've known this cognitively and I've taught this, but now I actually feel it and it's like embodied in my being, if you will, that this work has been planned and purposed for me and for you. And all I'm really doing is just walking in the work He has created for me to do. And it's like already been done. I'm going to do the work. I'm going to show up. I get to show up in a way that is in belief rather than in disbelief, or mustering up the belief or white knuckling the belief until I get there. And so I'm not doing it that way anymore. And it just feels like hands surrendered, palms up, and just receiving His gifts with humility and awe and with the deepest gratitude that I have felt toward the work He's created me to do. And so, like I said, I'm going into more depth on this at the mastermind retreat, but I did want to leave you with these questions for you that I think would help you identify what I'm calling my best and worst beliefs. And what I shared with my mastermind students about this work and this kind of breakthrough and things that I'm experiencing that is just so next level for me is that what has been for the last 2 years, like the positive emotions that I've coached myself into every day outside of disbelief have been things like capable, have been things like content, secure. I don't have them all in front of me. So, like, let me see what another one of them was. Accepted. I worked a lot over the last 2 years of feeling consistent and feeling accomplished, right? And a lot of these feeling decisive and feeling um, motivated, right? And feeling like decided. And what's interesting is this work I'm doing now, those feelings that I just shared with you that have created and been used to do the work I've done the last 2 years are now my at worst feelings, right? So the baseline has now elevated. So at worst, I feel a feeling of fun. And at best, I feel the feeling of sacred. At worst, I feel encouraged. And at best, I feel connected. Okay. At worst, I feel ease in my business. And at best, I feel relieved. I love the feeling of relief. It's one of my favorites. At worst, now I feel accomplished. And that was like my at best belief for a long time, was feeling accomplished. And now it's like my at worst feeling. It's like my new baseline. And my at best feeling is successful. And the interesting thing is something that kept coming up, that I would like, what would I feel if I weren't feeling doubt or weren't feeling failure? Or that's not a feeling, but things I weren't feeling, what would I be feeling? And one of my feelings that I worked on for a long time was like proud and happy, because those aren't easy emotions for me. Well, now I've worked so hard to feel those and believe those, that they're there. And so those are now like my baseline at worst feelings. And my at best feeling is belief. And that just feels like the biggest gift. So I want to share just 5 of the questions. I have like a million that I've asked myself, that as it related to this belief work, that I want to ask you and leave you with. And one is to ask yourself, what would I be thinking, feeling, and doing if my best clients were waiting to work with me? Number 2, what would I be thinking, feeling, and doing if I were already there? And what that means is like, what if you've already accomplished the goal you want? Whether it's a revenue number, it's 12 months from now, like what would you be thinking, feeling, and doing if you already had? Because that's what you have to be willing to feel now, because it doesn't happen there. And I can promise you that you will only feel there what you feel here. So decide how you're going to feel here and go ahead and feel it now. And then you'll be guaranteed to feel it then too. Number 3, what would I be thinking, feeling, and doing if I were celebrating and supporting women I was working with, healing their lives and reaching their dreams, right? That's what we're here to do. Number 4, what would I be thinking, feeling, and doing if it wasn't so hard anymore to build a business? Number 5, what would I be thinking, feeling, and doing if I believed my dreams were already done and reached by Him? And by dreams, we mean desires, the desires that he's planted in our hearts this side of heaven. So, what would I be thinking, feeling, and doing if I believed my desires were already fulfilled, done, and planned by him? So, it's January, it's over, first month of 2023. And now we're moving into February. And I will hear you. Well, I won't see you, but you'll hear me next week. Bye.